Hey everyone. Hey there. How are you doing today? It's July. We're finally into the summer season, and I'm so excited about that. We've had a really rough spring, I would say, a really rough spring. So it's great to at least turn the page on a new season. And for me and a lot of other homeschool families, this is planning season. And if you homeschool year round, this might not be planning season. But for those of us who do a more traditional school year, this is planning season. And for me, that's really fun and really exciting. And that's just a nerdy thing that I'm into is planning. But I talk about planning every single summer. I do workshops about planning usually in the summer. Can't do them this year in person, so I'm bringing them online. But um, I found out, I think last summer, that I was talking about homeschool planning so much, and a lot of people didn't even understand what I meant when I said that. So I want to just clarify, what is homeschool planning? Why on earth we would want to do it? How do we actually do the planning? And then how do we execute the plans? So I want to just go over that really briefly with you today, and then I'm hoping to come to you more this summer every week to bring you more detail about homeschool planning and how to set up your homeschool for the fall. I had planned on doing that already for the last couple of weeks, and I was covered in poison ivy on my face. So I know that these videos are for you, they're not for me, but I just really didn't want to come on camera with poison ivy on my face. I'm sorry. Now I have sunburn on my face, but I don't think you can see that as well. So we're back. Um, so what do I mean by planning? I think that when I say homeschool planning, a lot of people envision lesson planning. And I had a mom who was a teacher growing up for 25 years, a classroom teacher, and she sat there and she planned every single weekend what she was going to teach that week in her classroom every single day, every single lesson. And that is not what I'm talking about when I talk about homeschool planning. I do have friends who are former, I was going to say retired, they're not retired, former classroom teachers, and they still do lesson plan because that's in their blood, it's in their DNA, it's in their training, and they have a more traditional homeschool anyway, more traditional structure. But for most homeschool moms, we don't lesson plan, and that's just because there's a lot of moving parts when you homeschool. If you're already a homeschooler, you know that. And you know what? Everybody did some schooling at home during quarantine. So you know there's so many moving parts when you have the kids at home, everybody's at home, and there's spills, and dogs make a mess, and doorbell rings. So it's really hard to lesson plan for each specific day, each specific lesson. So more broadly, is what I like to plan, kind of more of an overview of what we're going to do. And then have an idea each week kind of what we're going to do, but it's not a lesson plan per se, and it doesn't get broken down day by day. So let me explain a little bit more what I'm talking about in a minute. But first, I just want to say there are a couple different camps when it comes to planning. There's two different camps. There's people who love to plan, and there's people who hate to plan and don't think it's necessary at all, and it's a little bit painful and annoying. So I obviously fall into the planning category, and one of the things that we can get caught up in when we're doing planning, particularly over the summer, is that thinking that while we're planning and really getting involved with, typing every single thing that we're going to do or really getting excited about things is actually doing the work. And then a lot of us have trouble with the execution of the work, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. So the plans feel really good to make and really exciting to make, and then we struggle with the actual execution. Then there's another camp of moms who really find planning painful. They would rather fly by the seat of their pants. This used to be me. I don't know why I've swung between these two extremes, but they feel that planning is really stressful. It's a really difficult to think through the things that are coming up in the future, and they would rather fly by the seat of their pants. But one of the problems with doing that, and I just want to encourage you, if you're someone who would rather live that way, you don't have to plan all of the things and be so completely detailed and completely organized. But when we do plan at least something, it means that we're being intentional about our homeschool, intentional about the education of our children. It helps us be more consistent. And when we're intentional and consistent, we're more reliable. Our kids feel more secure. We feel more secure. Everything feels more secure to us too. And I love that feeling and I hate the other feeling. So I think that's how I got dragged into planning more and more each year because it helped me feel more secure each year. And I like that feeling better than the overwhelmed, insecure, flying by the seat of my pants feeling. The other thing that I don't like is decision fatigue. I hate coming into a situation not knowing what my plan is and having to make a decision on the fly. It is so stressful to me. So decision fatigue is very real in my life and I'm always trying to squash that however I can. So I love homeschool planning because homeschooling is stressful to begin with, and so I want to alleviate that stress as best as I possibly can. So I just want to talk about the difference between planning and prepping. And today I'm talking about planning, and I kind of mean planning and prepping combined together, but there is a difference between the two. And I like to separate them out I think I only figured this out a couple years ago, but I like to do all of my planning first and then get to my prepping. And when I say prepping, there might be a little bit of curriculum purchase when I'm doing the planning still, but by prepping, I mean I'm purchasing the curriculum, I'm purchasing the resources that I need, my science materials, I'm laminating things, I'm printing out schedules, laminating schedules, putting things in binders, cleaning the classroom, setting up the school supplies. That's prepping in my mind. Planning is the higher level thinking, the vision, the goals, writing down what everybody is going to learn for the year, what books we're going to use, what the schedules are going to be. And the reason that I like to get those done first and kind of separate the two in my mind is that, number one, I used to overbuy big time. I used to, thanks, new background. I used to overbuy big time. And that was because I didn't have everything planned out first. I just kind of saw stuff and it was glossy and it was exciting and I wanted to do it and I thought the kids would love it and I thought I would love to teach it, or I would love to do it too beside them. And I would way overbuy. And then I would have already bought a lot before I planned out exactly what I was going to do. And then I would have to buy more stuff. So it was a waste of money. And the other thing that happens when you overbuy is you want to use all that stuff that you bought because you spent a ton of money on it. So there's this kind of pressure on you to use the things that you bought. And it's kind of a yucky feeling if you don't actually have the time or the energy or the kids end up hating it or something like that. So I really don't like to overbuy. So I like to have the plan in place and then do the prepping. So that's the difference between planning and prepping. Planning is just more of the thinking and the actual getting down on paper what we're going to do and why we're going to do it. And then the prepping is getting your debit card out and actually buying things and actually getting the things in place and working out where you're going to keep your school supplies and everything. So that's one thing. And then the other reason that I like to plan and why I moved into being a planner is that I used to think when I first started that because I had an instructor's guide with my curriculum that I was all set and ready to go. I didn't need to plan anything. They had planned everything for me, right? So it said it was open and go, and I think open and go is great. I recommend it to everybody all the time. But I didn't understand that they weren't actually planning out the important parts of our homeschool. They were just giving me the lesson plan. And the lesson plan, like I was saying, and I know I've got some people who lesson plan watching right now, so I don't want to offend the lesson planners, but lesson planning is like the nitty-gritty detail minutia of the day. And I needed that overarching structure more so than I needed the nitty-gritty lesson of the day. So they were giving me that little piece of the planning. I thought that was all the planning that I needed, and they had done it for me. And that wasn't the case. I needed to plan out our big picture stuff, and I'm going to talk about that right now. So again, the reason that we plan is to gain clarity, to gain peace, to get rid of decision fatigue, squash it, and to become really reliable and secure to our children and to ourselves. So it also helps us figure out that we've covered all the bases. So there were times when I would just take the instructor's guide and think I had everything and they had provided everything for me. And I really didn't actually have all the bases covered. They were just telling me maybe 6 of the 8 things that I needed to cover. And I didn't understand that at first, and it took me some years to figure that out. So by sitting down and actually looking at everything I want to teach my kids, writing it down, having a plan, I make sure that I don't miss anything too. There's no gaps. There will always be gaps, but not big gaps. And then, so let me talk about what I need to plan. Apart from what they give you in the instructor's guide and the lesson plans, I need schedules. I need tons and tons of schedules. I don't know about everybody else, but everybody should have, and I didn't know this at first, a calendar of which days you're going to homeschool during the year. So we have a school calendar for the year, and that's the first thing that I sit down to plan when I do my homeschool planning every single summer, and I figure out which days we're going to have school. The next thing that I do is inside of each month, again, which days am I going to have school? Because we have breaks in our school year. And I'll just tell you, some people decide to just start schooling and they school 5 days a week and they just go until they hit the number of days that their state requires. And that is amazing. I don't know how they keep that stamina up. I don't know how they don't lose their minds, but we need breaks. And people take all different kinds of breaks. Some people, they school for 4 days and every Friday, Saturday, and Sunday is a break. We do 6 weeks of school and then the 7th week is always off. We call it a Sabbath schedule. So 6 weeks on, 1 week off. Some people do 4 weeks on, 1 week off. Some people do 3 weeks on, 1 week off. I mean, sky's the limit. You can do whatever you want. If you school year round, you have more options for when you take your breaks. So I would do the whole entire school calendar, and then I would look at my break schedule and my monthly schedule and then my weekly schedule. Again, are we going to have school 4 days a week or 5 days a week? Do I have co-op activities, field trips, and figure out what I'm going to do inside of each week. Then I have a morning time schedule on top of my big overarching schedules, and that's our group learning. We call it morning time, and a lot of people probably know what that is, but that's another schedule that I make during the year, and I figure out what we're going to learn on which days as a group. So every day we pray, every day we have Bible, every day we have hymn. And then apart from that, some days we have a nature lore book. It's like a nature study book that we read. Some days we have geography together. Some days we have Shakespeare together. It's not every single day the same, so I have a schedule for that. And then I have a daily schedule. The kids each have a daily schedule, and I have my own daily schedule. So those are all of the schedules that I have to come up with, apart from whatever instructor's guide I might purchase with a particular curriculum that I purchase. So scheduling is a big part of homeschool planning, and that's usually the first thing that I sit down to do every year when I'm doing my homeschool planning, because that's kind of the big overarching planning that needs to happen. And then inside of the curriculum, or inside of my planning, I decide which, I'm sorry, what are you saying, Jess? Homeschool life is, okay. Inside of my planning, I decide what each kid is going to learn. I call that their course of study. That's something that I like to plan. So I say, this kid is going to have Spanish 2 days a week. Everybody's going to have math 5 days a week. And I figure out what everybody's going to have. And then the other things I like to plan are field trips. I talked about this on my Facebook page, but I like to plan the homemaking skills that everybody's going to learn. We also do handicrafts. I plan out our hymns for the year. We do one a month. We sing folk songs because we do Charlotte Mason homeschool. I plan one a month for those as well. I plan out what memory verses they're going to learn or recitation that they're going to do. And we learn 2 parables a year, 2 psalms a year, and then we do some poetry in there as well. So those are the things that I plan, apart from, what specific science lesson we're going to have on what day, if that makes any sense. Now, I want to talk about how you actually do the planning. And if you follow me on this Facebook page, I've been posting links to planning pages, homeschool planning pages that you can print out and you can use that are free, or you can pay for them. And those are amazing to get because it helps you see what other families are planning. I had no idea what other families were planning. I didn't even know that people knew this is great, how many days they were going to have of school each year and which day they were going to have. Like people would say, oh, we're coming up on the 100th day of school this Thursday. And I was like, how do you know? I was not keeping track of anything. I had no idea. That was something that bowled me over. And then I got planning pages and I could see, oh my gosh, people plan all of these things and they know exactly where they are in this school year and they know exactly how to track what's going on and what their kids should be learning. And when they get to the end of the school year, they know everything that their kids learned and everything that they covered. And it's amazing. And of course my homeschool's like that now, but it wasn't for years. I really didn't know. So it is important to learn what other people plan and how they structure their school years. But there's a lot of emphasis every single summer, I don't know if you've come across it, of homeschool planners, purchasing homeschool planners, what homeschool planner you're going to buy. You can go on YouTube and search, just put in homeschool planners. You'll see a bunch of YouTube videos. I don't know if that's confusing. I do not have one. I don't know if that's confusing or it's helpful to see how other moms set up their planners. But I have a homeschool planner. This is just a little aside about planners. It's not the end all be all. It's where I keep all of my plans after I make them, but I do not walk around the day with my planner. This is my homeschool planner. I've got my little logo on there. I use this every year. It's a disc-bound system, if you see what that is. And the only reason I use that is because it looks different than everything else that I own. I think it's messing up the lighting. So I can always see it and grab it. If it's on a shelf, if it's on the floor, I'm messy sometimes. If it's on a desk, I can see what it is and I can grab it if I really need it. So I use the disc-bound system for that. But you can use a binder and just stick those free printer pages, hole punch them, stick them in the binder. Or you can use whatever you want. What I actually walk around with during the day is a clipboard, a covered clipboard. I don't know if you can see. And then I've got my schedule of what I have to do each day. Every Monday I do that, every Tuesday I do that, every Wednesday I do that. And so this just keeps me on track. And then I've got a pen that I keep on it, and I've got a whiteboard marker that can write on this thing. And then inside I keep whatever I need. There's a random, it's the summer, so we don't have anything really going on. But I am still doing reading. So there's a random flashcard in here. But I keep the things that I need to use to work with one-on-one with the kids. And I have paper for notes if I need to write notes in there. So this is what I actually walk around with. It's my clipboard of what I need to do each day. I don't walk around with the big, thick planner. Like I thought I would. I thought I would walk around with it all day and be like a teacher and be like, oh, are we keeping up with everything? But that didn't happen. One thing I would say is if you record everything electronically, like if you type in Google Docs your plans each year, that's all I do. I don't use those beautiful pages that I recommend to everybody. And I'm honest about it. I make my own. And they're just black and white like you just saw on here. They're just black and white Google Docs. Because I need everything custom for our family. That's just how I like to have it. But if you keep everything electronic, you don't have to start from scratch each year. You can just go back and tweak what you already made if you keep your files nice and organized in your Google Docs or whatever if you have Microsoft Word. And you can just go back and tweak the schedule every year because that first year that you set everything up, it'll be a lot. But then you can just move things around from then on. And it'll be super easy. So I definitely recommend keeping everything electronically. That's also why I don't purchase those beautiful, colorful, gorgeous, floral planner pages, which are beautiful, if they are not, if I can't edit them and I can't save them electronically and it's a little bit more cumbersome than just, because I want everything done and then to go back in and just tweak it each year. And it's just easier for me to do that in my Google Docs, honestly, than even those pages are beautiful to look at. I'm always looking for the fastest, most efficient way to do things. So I just do that. But you can handwrite out. You can print the stuff and handwrite it out and just keep it for next year. Maybe when you can mentally handle typing it in and keeping it electronically. I had to do everything in stages. It took years for me to get to the point where now my planning is kind of on autopilot. And I will be coming back to talk to you in more specific detail about some of that. This is kind of the overview. But it took stages. So the first year I did handwrite everything. The first year that I realized I needed plans, I handwrote everything. I printed out beautiful pages and I handwrote, and then I held on to them. And then the next year, probably I think I printed them out again and handwrote them. And then I said, why am I doing this every year? I need to just do this electronically and be able to go back in and change it each year. So it took me years. It was iterations of figuring out how to do this. But so here's the key to actually executing these plans, because I think a lot of us make these gorgeous plans every single summer and then the school year starts and they completely fall apart. So there's a couple things to keep in mind. Number one, they probably will fall apart. There's some steps that I'll come back again next week and talk to you about. But real life happens and all of the plans don't go according to the way that you dreamt they would in your mind. So just being realistic. But like I said before, I am really excited about homeschool planning and I love to do it because I know that if I make a plan, I'm actually going to do it. It's not just a plan. This is my real plan. I don't know how else to say it. This is what's really going to happen in my homeschool. And the only reason I know that is because it's taken me years to figure out how to not over plan. So if you over plan, the plans are probably going to fall apart. I also don't go on Pinterest and overpin and get really excited about a whole bunch of different things, or go into a convention, and conventions aren't even open this year, but in the past, I don't go into conventions and get really excited and overbuy. So I keep everything really realistic. So that's the number one way that I know that I can actually do it. And then number two is that I know I can rely on myself. I have a track record with myself so that I know that if I make the plan, I'll actually execute the plan. And that's really, really important. I couldn't rely on myself the first couple years of homeschooling. So I don't want to make it sound like if this is your first year of homeschooling, you should just know exactly, what your energy, see, I know what my energy level is. I know what the kids are capable of. I know what I've trained them to do independently. It's going to take years, but it will happen if you stick with homeschooling and you stick with yourself and go a little bit easy on yourself, give yourself grace, and know that you're just gonna, it's iterations, you're gonna tweak it every year. Every year is gonna be better than the last year. But I love planning because it's not just a pie in the sky idea for me. This is actually what I'm going to execute when the school year starts. I know that I can rely on myself and I know what to expect, and I'm not unrealistic with my plans. So when you get to that point, homeschool planning is great because it's just a picture on paper of exactly what's going to happen for the year, and so you know what to expect, barring any quarantines, barring any quarantines creeping up, or any other emergencies or situations coming. You know exactly what's going to happen in your year. So that's all for today. This was just meant to be an overview of what homeschooling, why you would want to do homeschool planning, what it kind of is versus lesson planning, versus prepping, and versus following an instructor's guide, and then basically like how to execute the plan. You kind of just have to execute the plan and be willing to go with trial or error and have a lot of grace with yourself. So that's all for now. I'm going to talk to you in a week and get a little bit more specific, dive down a little bit deeper into homeschool planning, and maybe give you some resources if they make sense. So I will talk to you then. Bye.